Hi, and welcome to this week's Fireside Chat. My name is Julie Hollinger, and I am the Programs Manager at the Petawawa Military Family Resource Centre. We have a couple of guests with us this week. This week, we're talking about the Healthy Relationships campaign. So this is a national campaign that's happening across Canada at the various bases and garrisons and wings. And the focus is really talking about what you can do to make your relationship healthier and stronger, and putting some of the focus on those tools and supports that are available for people who want to make that investment in the relationship. I have a few guests with me today. I have Pam Proctor. She is the psychosocial team lead at Base Mental Health here at Garrison Petawawa. I have Michelle McDonald, who is the Victim Services Representative at Garrison Petawawa at 2MP Detachment. And I have Major Brittany Main, who is the Deputy Champion for the Family Violence Advisory Team, or the FVAT team, as we call it here in Petawawa. Typically, I also have Derek DeRuiter joining us. He's the Executive Director at the PMFRC to talk about what's new at the PMFRC. He is not here today, but I did want to mention one thing that was coming up. On November the 4th, we're having a day-long event. It is about financial literacy and money-saving skills. We know that people across the community, across the country, are really having issues with the rising cost of living, mortgages being what they are. So we're going to take a day and we're going to talk about money-saving tips. We've got SISIP coming in who can help you with budgeting. We're going to talk about meal planning, vehicle maintenance, how to do the holidays without going into debt. All of those big pieces that really do tie in with relationships well, because we know for a fact that relationships, that financial issues, money issues, those are questions that do tend to affect relationships. So join us for that. I'm going to put the link underneath. The deadline to register is the 2nd of November, and that's at the Southside Community Centre. Pam, I'm going to start with you. This is the month where we talk about healthy relationships. And there's two themes that are happening through this campaign. One's the importance of reaching out for support, and the second is navigating the end of relationships. You are a psychosocial clinician at Garrison Petawawa. I imagine that you have had many, many conversations with couples in front of you about relationships and keeping them healthy. Can you talk a little bit about why is this important to talk about? Even if your relationship might be in a really good zone, why is it important to focus on your relationship and how to keep it healthy?
So just to clarify, I myself don't do couples counseling. I do individual counseling. I do, however, we offer couples counseling here, and we also refer to make that referral to couples counseling. That being said, there is a place for individual counseling as well. And that is often when people, for example, haven't really convinced their partner to do couples counseling, but there's still, some opportunity for improving communication and also just dealing with stressors. But you're absolutely right. The time to seek couples counseling, the time to begin a conversation about healthy relationships is almost before the relationship has even become a relationship, because so much of it is about your communication styles and understanding how are you going to express your needs to another person. How will the two of you navigate stressors, like all of the external stressors and individual. There's job pressures. There's for military members. There's postings, deployments. And of course, right now, big conversation is the cost of living. So there's financial pressures. And I do apologize. I was very, very last minute on this. So I am winging it completely. Nancy is by far the most eloquent person and the expert in terms of the FVAT. And I'm reasonably new to mental health services here in Petawawa as well. What was the second part of the question? My apologies.
What are sort of like the pressures that couples face? Like we talked a little bit about the financial piece, but obviously in a garrison community, in a military community, there are some really specific challenges like relocations, deployments, those types of things. How do you safeguard your relationship in the face of those types of stresses, either as like doing your individual work or working with your partner?
A lot of this is about managing stress, obviously. And not being afraid to ask for help. One of the advantages of being in the military is that there are many avenues for accessing services and support. you can ask questions, and of your peers, people who've been through it. If it's the first time that you've been deployed or been posted, what are the steps? And advocate for yourself as well. Again, I'm not really an expert on that. I, as an individual psychosocial counselor, see me and I can put you in touch with those resources. But they're all available on the social media, on the websites, whatever's available to you. Phone people up and ask and get in touch with those services. And there's nothing wrong with asking for that support. In fact, it's what it's there for, to make it easier for you. And, on an individual one-to-one level, we can help with distress tolerance, stress management, mindfulness, just having somebody who, an empathetic ear who can listen. Couples counseling can help with just couples. And the time to approach is maybe when you first see that there might be some issues, as opposed to waiting until things become very, very stressful.
One of the things that we are familiar with in the Healthy Relationships campaign, we do this every year. And one of the things that we point to all the time is that healthy relationships continuum, and being able to take a look at, where is your relationship along the line? I know that in military life, we see the continuum a lot in different contexts, sort of that green, orange, yellow. What we're going to do is we're going to put it underneath, and it has a lot of things about what do the behaviors look like. So, what does it look like if your relationship's in green? What are the things that you're looking for, those signs? Also, because it's an annual event, we've had different themes as we go. Last year's theme, I think, really works well in Petawawa this year. So we're going to share those tip sheets underneath. It's a lot about deployments. What are the tips to get you ready before deployment? What are the tips to get you ready before that reintegration happens? So we're going to put all of those resources underneath. As Pam said, those resources can be so important, whether you're in trouble now, or we're sort of in concerns now, or, whether you just want to make sure that you're not getting into that yellow and red zone. Major Maine, thank you for joining us here. You are the deputy champion for the Family Violence Advisory Team. FVAT really is the group, the committee that puts together a lot of these activities, and people see us around at Garrison Day, at other events. What does the FVAT do, and why are these topics so important for us to be addressing as a Garrison community?
So thanks for having me, Julie. The Family Violence Advisory Team is an organization that is comprised of multiple stakeholders from the community that have either services to assist people with or who experience family violence or impacted by it. And what the team does is provides advice and some expertise to the chains of command here on the garrison, who are invested in, number one, wanting to prevent family violence and setting the conditions so that we have a reduction in those numbers, but also to help them deal effectively with it when these incidents unfortunately do happen.
Thank you. I'm going to invite Michelle into this conversation. Michelle is one of those stakeholder partners that does sit around the table at the FVAT committee, and she has a unique role at Garrison Petawawa. Michelle, can you talk a little bit about it, what it is that you do? And if someone is listening to you and feels that they would like to talk to you, or they know someone who might need their services, how do we find you?
Okay, again, thanks for having me as well, Julie. So I'm a victim services coordinator here at the MP detachment. So at Victim Services, we offer ongoing support from the beginning to the end of an incident for a victim until our services are no longer required. We service CAF members and other civilians that have been victim of a crime that's happened within military police jurisdiction. And first and foremost, our organization aims to protect the safety of victims and make sure they're aware of their rights as victims. So for example, some services that we offer, resources, is first thing, we always offer a safety plan for victims if they've been a victim of domestic violence or really anything else. But we help them make mental health connections through PMFRC with the Wellness Center, Phoenix Center. We can set up meetings with a chaplain if needed. And we also offer victim protection. We go through resources for that, such as using Bernadette McCann House for a shelter. Emergency PMQs are also something else that we can action and get going through the GD Padre. Another thing that we've been fortunate enough to have, and that's with the help of Renfrew County Victim Services, is also offering some security equipment such as cameras, door jams, or alarms that will go off when needed. So part of the ongoing support is that we explain to the victims of the charges that have been made, as well as explaining the court process and how it goes through it. We provide information on the status of the case, and especially when it's been concluded in court and what has happened. We do check-ins with victims on a regular basis. Sometimes that involves phone calls, or victims will come in. We can meet here in the office or go to Tim Hortons and meet somewhere else, wherever they're comfortable for. We also inform the victim of any other arrests, or if there's been any breaches. We also inform them of the detention or the release arising from the investigation, depending on what happens. We also provide documentation, such as the undertaking. So for example, if someone's been a victim of domestic abuse and their abuser has been arrested, we would provide them with that release order. Once it's gone through court, any documents that need to be provided through court are also provided through us. If anyone is looking to get in contact with us here at Victim Support, we are at the Military Police Detachment at 227 Salm Road, building N104. You can even call us as well, and it's at the 613-687-5511. And we have two extensions, extension 5900 or 5146. And sorry, the second part of the question was?
Who do you support? So I mean, we talked about it quickly. You support whether a victim is a military member or a family member?
Military member, family member, civilian, as long as, so we support individuals where the crime has happened within military police jurisdiction.
And so much about it, what you talked about, is really just providing people with that information and keeping them in the loop, and really making sure that people feel like they are heard and part of the process and know what services are available. We have a number of groups that sit around the table at NFET. You talked about Brendan at McCann House, the Women's Sexual Assault Center. I'm going to put a link of key phone numbers below if you've got some questions about that. We also have a tip sheet about creating a safety plan. Michelle talked about why that is so important, and I would encourage you to have a conversation with her. But if you're not entirely sure what that means or what's involved in that, there's a little bit more information below there. Pam, do you want to talk about base mental health services and what it is that you can provide either for CAF members or for family members who are experiencing violence or have some concerns in the relationship? How do they reach out to you?
So our services, unless you're in a couple, we do provide couples therapy to one of the spouses must be a military member. Individual counseling is for military members, is limited to them, although we do sometimes involve the family more broadly. And we have a few avenues for reaching us. Usually people present their first contact with mental health services is through mental health intake. That is coming to the health services center on the base, presenting to the CDU, and there's a short questionnaire they usually ask you to fill out. And if you want to speak to someone in mental health services, you make that known. And then we sit you down and have a discussion to see exactly what services are needed, what your level of need is, how urgent the care is required, and so on. And then a referral is made from there. We offer both people who are experiencing just stressors related, sort of more ordinary stressors that everybody goes through in a relationship. Sometimes somebody might be wondering, is my relationship healthy? Something doesn't feel right. And that's also worthy of a little bit more unpacking. We help people leading up to a breakup, following a breakup, and sometimes, processing potentially some trauma that occurred in a breakup may happen months after the relationship has ended. An initial period of maybe kind of relief, and then realizing that maybe you're starting a new relationship and you're finding that there's unresolved issues. All of that is something that we can help with. I think it's very important to make it clear that not all abuse is where a punch is landed. And it's really important to know that I think even today with the focus on this type of thing, a lot of people feel, well, it's not abuse if I haven't been hit. And that's simply not the case. There's many different forms of violence, and some of those are very subversive. Control issues, controlling money, controlling people's contact with their friends and their family. Passive aggressive comments that are like, if you feel unsafe and like you can't be yourself, that's something you should probably go and talk to somebody about, because where's that feeling coming from? And I think that's the most important thing, is that we shouldn't necessarily say, particularly if violence in a relationship is a slow build, because it doesn't usually just begin with a sudden punch out of nowhere. There's a lot of psychological manipulation and abuse that can occur before then, that almost normalizes some of the arguments, and silent treatment for an extended period of time is a sign that something is wrong, and you know, is something that needs to be looked at any point in where you feel if you think you need help, come on down, and we'll sit down and we'll unpack that for you and see what we can offer.
And trust your gut. Don't ignore sort of that gut feeling that you have. Just taking off my host hat for a second and just speaking on behalf of the PMFRC. The Petawawa Military Family Resource Center also has a mental health team. If you are a military family member, we have individual counseling, but we also have couples counseling and family counseling that is available. So if you are a military family member, come see us. You can give us a call at our Family Wellness Center, and I'll put that number below. We also have a mental health walk-in clinic. So a lot of people are afraid of starting that process because there could be a wait list. There's a lot going on. We do it the first and the third Wednesday of every month, and it's an opportunity to just walk in and talk to somebody. Just, you know, sit down for an hour, talk to a clinician, see where you are. You might make the decision at the end of the session. This is something we should follow up on. This is something that, you know, we need to talk on an ongoing basis. And then you can go to the intake at that point, but it's an opportunity just to have that initial conversation and get that check-in. So I'll put the link for that below. I think all of us, I think the message we want to take away is there are resources that are there. So please, if you do feel something's not right, if you want to avoid something going, you know, if your relationship's healthy and you want to put the investment in it, there are tip sheets, there are resources that are available. We're going to share those below. I think the one question that I want to ask at the end of all of these things, and Pam, I'll ask you, if someone's listening to this and they realize that there's an issue and they don't feel safe in their relationship, what should they do?
Get in touch with victim services. I think that's probably one of the first things you should do. If you feel very unsafe, contact the police, reach out to emergency services, people that you know and you trust that are you know, that you can say, I don't feel safe. I need a place to stay. You never be concerned that it's not bad enough for you to reach out. If you feel unsafe, take action to protect yourself and reach out to someone, tell someone.
We also have a tip sheet below. If you have a family member or a friend that you feel is in an unhealthy relationship, how do you support them and what are the things that you should be doing? I think a lot of people are afraid to get involved or afraid of giving the wrong advice. So I think it's just a good resource for people to take a look at. There's also a decision tree there. If you sort of are walking through that, what are some of the things that you want to keep in mind? Before we go, does anybody have anything else that they would like to add or put on top of that? There are a lot of resources that are available. They'll be in the comment section. One last chance before we sign off. All right, with that, it is Healthy Relationships Week. So we are coming to the end of this week. Keep watching our Facebook page. For the last 2 weeks, we have been featuring different tips, different resources, different training videos, things that you should be thinking about. Just really good conversation starters. And thank you all for joining us. It's been a great conversation. I think it's an important topic and something that we focus on in November, but something we can really be looking at year round. So thank you all for joining us. Have a great day, and we will see you next month.